What if I told you the smartphone in your hand, the roads you drive on, and even life-saving medicines owe their origins to a continent you might least expect? For centuries, African ingenuity has been quietly shaping the modern world, often without recognition. Prepare to have your understanding of global innovation completely redefined. Think about how many times a day you use GPS. It's more than just a convenience. It's a fundamental part of modern life, a silent partner in our daily routines. It's that little blue dot on your screen that guides you through unfamiliar streets, helps you find the closest coffee shop, and connects you with friends by sharing your location. It's the invisible force that dispatches emergency services to the exact right place, enables farmers to plow fields with centimeter-level accuracy, and ensures your late-night food delivery arrives at your door. It is a genuine miracle of modern science that we all carry around effortlessly in our pockets, a testament to human ingenuity that operates so flawlessly we almost forget it's there. But what if I told you that a critical, indispensable piece of that system, a foundational model of the Earth itself that makes every single calculation accurate, was developed by an African-American mathematician whose name was deliberately kept in the shadows for decades? What if a pillar of our interconnected world, a technology that feels almost like magic, was built by someone society tried to hold back at every turn? This is the story of Dr. Gladys West, one of the brilliant, unsung minds whose quiet work helped shape the world of GPS. It's a story that starts on a farm in the segregated South and ends with a legacy that circles the globe at the speed of light. It's a story about overcoming barriers, the quiet power of intellectual defiance, and the profound impact one person's dedication can have on billions of people who would never know her name. Our story doesn't start in a high-tech laboratory or a prestigious university, but on a small sharecropper's farm in rural Dinwiddie County, Virginia. Born Gladys May Brown in 1930, she spent her childhood in a world defined by physical labor. Her mother worked in a tobacco factory, her father for the railroad, and the family, like many others in their community, tended a small farm. Gladys spent her days helping her family harvest tobacco and corn under the demanding Virginia sun. It was grueling, repetitive work from dawn until dusk, a life dictated by the seasons, economic hardship, and the rigid social structure of the Jim Crow South. Gladys knew with absolute certainty that this life wasn't her destiny. She saw her peers and family members resigned to this fate, but she felt a powerful pull towards something different, something more. She realized her way out wasn't through moving to a nearby city for factory work, but through something far more powerful and permanent: education. I thought at first I needed to go to the city, but then as I got more educated, went into the higher grades, I learned that education was the thing to get me out, she'd later say. This realization was her guiding star, and she went after it with every ounce of her being. In a segregated school system explicitly designed to limit her potential, Gladys was a star pupil. She found solace and strength in mathematics, a world of pure logic where answers were either right or wrong, and the truth of a solution couldn't be argued away by prejudice. She worked relentlessly, poring over books long after her farm work was done. Her hard work paid off spectacularly. She graduated as the valedictorian of her high school class in 1948, an incredible achievement that earned her a full scholarship to Virginia State College, a historically black university. That scholarship wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a lifeline. It was the key that unlocked a door that society tried to bolt shut. It didn't just get her off the farm, it set her on a course that would quietly, profoundly, and irrevocably change the world. At Virginia State, Gladys continued to defy expectations. Unsure of what to major in, she was encouraged to pursue science or math precisely because they were considered the most difficult subjects. She chose to major in mathematics, a field overwhelmingly dominated by men, where she was one of a handful of women. "You felt a little different," she recalled, noting she didn't quite fit in with women studying more traditional subjects like home economics. But she didn't let that feeling of otherness deter her. She didn't just try to fit in, she excelled, joining the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and earning not only a bachelor's but also a master's degree in mathematics from Virginia State College. After a few years of sharing her passion for math as a teacher in Virginia's segregated schools, Gladys yearned for a new and greater challenge. In 1956, she found it, accepting a job as a mathematician at the U.S. Naval Proving Ground in Dahlgren, Virginia. You simply cannot overstate what a monumental achievement this was. In the rigidly segregated Virginia of the 1950s, where society was governed by laws designed to separate black and white, Gladys West was only the second black woman ever hired on the base, and only one of 4 black employees in total. She was consciously stepping into a world that was not built for her, an environment where she would have to prove her worth and intelligence every single day. She later recalled her mindset. I had to be the best that I could be, always doing things just right to set an example for other people who were coming behind me. She had no idea that the work she was about to begin, work that society deemed unfit for her, would one day help guide billions of people around the globe. At Dahlgren, Gladys entered the top-secret, high-stakes world of the Cold War. The base was a nerve center for naval weapons development, and her job was to analyze impossibly complex data and program massive, room-sized computers, behemoths of metal and wiring that were the supercomputers of their day. One of her first major projects was a landmark astronomical study that helped confirm the regularity of Pluto's motion relative to Neptune. It was incredibly complex work, verifying the strange, resonant orbit that keeps the 2 celestial bodies from colliding. The calculations were so immense they required hundreds of hours of computer time, and in an era prior to perfect reliability, Gladys and her colleagues often had to painstakingly double-check the machine's work by hand. Gladys was brilliant at it, quickly earning a reputation for her meticulous attention to detail and her uncanny knack for spotting errors in programming code that others missed. But her next challenge was even bigger, a problem of planetary scale. The space age was dawning, satellites were being launched into orbit, and the Navy needed to track them with absolute pinpoint accuracy. There was just one enormous problem. The Earth isn't a perfect sphere. It's more like a lumpy, slightly squashed potato. It bulges at the equator, is flattened at the poles, and its gravitational field isn't uniform. To track a satellite accurately, you first need an incredibly precise mathematical model of the Earth's itself, a model that accounts for every mountain range, ocean trench, and variation in density that affects gravity. This is where Gladys West made her landmark contribution. Leading a project in the 1970s and 80s, she managed the programming of a powerful IBM 7030 stretch computer to create one of the most detailed mathematical models of the Earth's shape ever made. The Stretch was one of the world's first transistorized supercomputers, capable of tackling problems that would take previous machines months in a single day. Using a torrent of data pouring in from new satellites like CSAT, the first satellite designed to observe the Earth's oceans with radar altimeters, West and her team wrote incredibly complex algorithms. These algorithms had to account for all the subtle variations in gravity, tides, and other forces that distort our planet's shape. The result was an incredibly precise model of the Earth's shape, known as a geoid. This geoid served as a true zero surface for calculating heights and locations, a universal baseline for global measurements. At the time, this was a vital military advancement, building and improving earlier, less accurate models. Gladys wasn't thinking about its future global impact. As she later said, when you're working every day, you're not thinking, what impact is this going to have on the world? You're thinking, I've got to get this right. That painstakingly accurate model of the Earth was a critical missing piece for the then-developing Global Positioning System, or GPS. The entire system was a massive undertaking started by the U.S. Department of Defense in 1973, led by a team of brilliant engineers and scientists, with Colonel Bradford Parkinson often called its chief architect. The system works through a process called trilateration. A constellation of satellites orbits the Earth, each broadcasting a unique, hyper-accurate timing signal from its onboard atomic clock. Your phone or GPS device on the ground listens for these signals, and by calculating the tiny differences in how long it takes for signals from multiple satellites to arrive, it pinpoints your exact location. But all of that brilliant engineering would be completely useless if the system didn't have a precise, accurate model of the Earth to base its calculations on. The satellites are zipping along at 14,000 kilometers per hour. Their internal clocks are literally warped by Einstein's theory of relativity, and Earth's lumpy, uneven gravity is constantly pulling on their orbits. The slightest error in modeling the Earth, treating it like a perfect sphere instead of the complex shape it is, would introduce compounding errors, throwing GPS accuracy off by hundreds of feet and rendering it useless for precise navigation. Dr. West's work on the geoid provided an incredibly precise foundation, the essential bedrock for all of these calculations. Her team's detailed modeling of Earth's shape and gravity helped make GPS accurate enough to be reliable. It allowed the system to convert heights measured relative to a simple mathematical ellipsoid into meaningful elevations relative to mean sea level. So while she didn't invent GPS single-handedly, her foundational work was an indispensable component. Without that level of precision in modeling our planet, the GPS we know and rely on today simply wouldn't work as well. Her work was the stable ground on which the entire skyscraper of GPS technology was built. For many years, GPS was a classified military project, a secret tool in the Cold War arsenal. But that began to change in 1983 after a horrific international tragedy. A civilian airliner, Korean Airlines Flight 007, was shot down by a Soviet interceptor after it strayed into forbidden Soviet airspace due to a navigational error, killing all 269 people on board, including a U.S. congressman. In the aftermath, President Ronald Reagan announced that once GPS was fully operational, it would be made available to civilian use to prevent such navigational tragedies from ever happening again. Even then, full, unhindered civilian access took time. For national security reasons, the military intentionally degraded the civilian signal with a policy called selective availability, which introduced timing errors to limit its accuracy to about 100 meters. That policy wasn't finally turned off until May 1, 2000, by order of President Bill Clinton. Once it was, the accuracy for civilians improved tenfold overnight, and the floodgates opened. Dr. West's once secret work began changing the world in ways she had never imagined. First came specialized GPS devices for hikers and boaters, costing thousands of dollars. Then the technology was built into cars, transforming road trips forever. And finally, with the advent of the smartphone, the legacy of her foundational work was placed directly into billions of hands across the globe. Today, that legacy is utterly ubiquitous. It's in the digital maps that guide our every journey, the ride-sharing and food delivery apps that power the on-demand economy, the financial systems that rely on its precise timing signals, and the life-saving technology used by first responders to locate people in emergencies. All of this was made possible, in part, by a woman who worked in total obscurity for 42 years, a true hidden figure whose name was unknown to the very world that was rapidly coming to depend on her brilliance. Gladys West retired from Dahlgren in 1998 after more than 4 decades of dedicated service, but she wasn't done challenging herself. A lifelong believer in the power of education, she decided to pursue a doctorate. She later suffered a stroke but refused to let it defeat her. With incredible determination, she pushed through a difficult recovery, inspired by a new goal. As she recalled, all of a sudden these words came into my head. You can't stay in the bed. You've got to get up from here and get your PhD. And she did. She earned her PhD in public administration from Virginia Tech in 2000 at the age of 70. Her monumental contributions to science might have stayed hidden forever if not for a serendipitous moment involving her sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha. While writing a short biography for an alumni event, she briefly mentioned her work on the geoid model for the military. A sorority sister read the bio, recognized the global importance of what she had done, and began to spread the word. Slowly but surely, the recognition started pouring in. In 2018, Dr. Gladys West was inducted into the Air Force Space and Missile Pioneers Hall of Fame, one of the Air Force's highest honors, acknowledging her as a foundational figure in the space program. The UK's Royal Academy of Engineering awarded her the Prince Philip Medal, one of its most prestigious awards. The Virginia General Assembly formally commended her for her trailblazing career.
Her story is no longer hidden. Her work is not just a part of history, it is a living foundation that is still relied upon today. As Captain Godfrey Weeks, a former commanding officer at Dahlgren, stated, she rose through the ranks, worked on the satellite geodesy, and contributed to the accuracy of GPS and the measurement of satellite data. As Gladys West started her career in 1956, she likely had no idea that her work would impact the world for decades to come. Dr. West's journey from a sharecropper's farm to the heart of a technological revolution is a powerful and inspiring reminder that genius has no race, no gender, and no predetermined background. It can be found on a humble farm in rural Virginia, in the mind of a quiet mathematician working tirelessly against the odds, and in the countless brilliant individuals whose stories we have yet to tell. The modern world we live in was built by an army of heroes, and many of them, like the women depicted in Hidden Figures, are still waiting in the shadows to be discovered. If you were inspired by Dr. Gladys West's incredible story, be sure to subscribe and share this video so her legacy can continue to inspire others. And the next time you glance at that blue dot on your phone screen, that tiny symbol of certainty in a vast and complex world, take a moment to remember the woman from Virginia. Remember the mathematician who defied the expectations of her time and devoted her life to getting the numbers right. Remember the woman whose meticulous calculations helped map our entire world so that you and billions of others could find your way in it.